All right, you'll definitely need notes today. Definitely need your notes today. Do a quick review. We're going to talk about some story from today.
Jason, guess what? I forgot. I don't know which one. Wait, I think. Alex, come here. There's that. I think it's on the other side for that. Yeah, here you go. Hey, Kyra. What's my favorite activity to do? Pokemon Go.
Okay. Hey, you need your notes out? We're going to go through a couple things here. Great. Okay. All right, today we're just going to do a quick review of chapters 3:7 to 3:15. Now, I know that we've only done 3:12, right? There's like 15 sections in the book. The rest of the remaining sections, all they do is they basically do a kind of a review of adding and subtracting, but what they throw in there is they throw in the story prompts. So today, basically what it is, I just picked a random select few. I went online and I found some pictures and I put them on here so you can kind of see what we're talking about. Okay? So what we're talking about is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. So what I want to do right now, let's do a quick review of how do we add and subtract fractions. So let's do that. Let's talk about that first. So what's the correct way that I can add and subtract a fraction like 11 over 12 minus 9 over 12?
Oh,
What do we do?
subtract right across.
Right
Except
across
the bottom.
Why?
Because the bottom numbers are the same.
Exactly. So when you add and subtract, it doesn't matter if it's adding or subtracting. If the bottom numbers are the same, you're allowed to go straight across the top. So the 12 will be on the top. 11 minus 9 is 2. And I know this simplifies, but I'm not worried about that. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, now if we're adding these together, then you get 20 over 12, and we'd have to change that back to improper, or back to a mixed number. And that's where you put the 20 in the house, you put the 12 on the outside. If it turns out to be improper, 12 goes into 20 once. So 12 times 1 is 12. You subtract, straight down to get 8, and that's your remainder. So it's 1 and 8 twelfths. Right? That's how you change it. So that was when we add and subtract. When we multiply, that was even easier. Multiplying is where you go straight across top and bottom. But the first thing you have to look at, can we simplify? That's what we did when we multiplied. So like 9 and 12, they definitely have 3's in common. Because what we did is we changed 12 to be 4 times 3. We tried this, that was 4 times 3. We tried the 9, that was 3 times 3. And what we did is we started crossing out numbers diagonally, top and bottom. And what we did is we went straight across, and we figured out that there was 11 on the top. There was 11 times 1, and 4 times 4 is 16. That's how we multiply. Remember, that was what we did a while back. So does everyone understand how I just did that? That was multiplying. That was when we simplified, we broke up things, we crossed them out. I know, like, Hannah, your way of doing it is you just like to go straight across and you simplify it later. That's fine. You can still do that. Okay? So it's just, multiplying is easy. You don't find common denominators. You just go straight across and you multiply, whatever the top and bottom is. That's different than adding. Dividing, same idea. Now, if I had 4 over 5, and I'm dividing by 2 over 3, what we did is we changed this to multiplication. The second fraction had to flip. And now we can do the same thing. We can look diagonally to see if they have anything in common. Well, this is 2 times 2. So the 2 can cross out. And now what we're left with is 6 over 5. And I can questions, comments on multiplying, dividing, add, subtract, kind of what we did. Now, remember, on multiplying and dividing, you have to change them to improper if they're mixed numbers and stuff. That was the only way we did those. Okay, there was no other shortcuts for multiplying and dividing. You had to change them to improper. They can go. And subtracting, you can do grouping method or improper. Doesn't matter. Okay, so today we're going to do some story problems. Now, the best news is there's multiple ways you can find the answers to these things. Okay, there's multiple ways. The goal today is to get kind of familiar with terms, talk about the story problem itself, see what operations you should attempt to do. Now, there's different ways, so we'll kind of talk about multiple ways of doing it. But the goal today is to kind of work together. Let's see if we can figure these out. Now, I want to try to do these without calculators today. That's kind of the goal. That's what I want to make sure that you can see. Now, remember, we do have homework due tomorrow. That is our page 82 and 83. Okay, so at some point today, I will give you a little bit of time, maybe the last 15 minutes of class to kind of work today. You won't get a lot. Today's mostly spent on this. We're going to continue this tomorrow for sure, because we're not going to get to all of them. We're going to do about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 today, and then we'll do 4 or 5 tomorrow. Okay? All right, questions, comments on what we're doing here today? All right, let's jump right in. So you need paper, so make sure you have paper out. Okay, let's take a look at the first problem. We'll discuss it. I'll let you see if you can kind of figure it out. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I've put the page numbers where I pulled these problems from, so you know they're in the book somewhere. Okay, so John here wants to build 5 shelves measuring 3 3/4 feet long. So we've got a mixed number there. He wants to build 5 of them. How many feet of shelving board will he need to buy? Okay, so let's talk about this. We have 5 shelves we want to build. They there's a certain dimension to them, 3 3/4 feet long. How many feet of board will he need? So let's talk about the different ways we could solve this. Just think about this out loud. What do you think?
You could do the whole and one fraction.
Okay.
You could times it, add it, and have the 5 and put it over like 1.
Okay. So 5 over 1. Okay. 5 over 1, and then what do you say with the other fraction?
You like figure it out.
Okay, so we changed it improper. Okay, so that's 12 plus 3, which is 15 over 4. That's 12 plus 3 is 15. That's why I put it over 4. And then what do we do with these?
You divide the bottom of the denominator.
Oh, you want to add? You multiply. You have 5 shelves. You know how big they are? Just multiply it by 5. You want 5 of those shelves that are that feet long. Okay? So you can multiply those. That's one strategy. So that was good. You actually had to do what you did. You had to change these to improper to multiply. Or the other way you could attempt this problem, because there's multiple ways of doing it. So I think this is probably the easiest. That's how you find the total. Or you could take that 3 3/4, and you could just add it to itself 5 times. This will be the same answer, believe it or not.
Not really.
That'll be the same answer. You have 5 of the boards that are that long. If you multiply it by 5, you get the same answer as just adding it 5 times. That's the idea, and you'll have to simplify it. Okay, so if you're going to do either method, it doesn't matter. Okay, so what I would like you to do right now, I would like you to pick one of these to solve. Pick one, top or bottom, figure out the answer right now. Okay, I'll turn on the lights. What type of method is that? Explain that again. How are you doing that? Oh, okay. Why do you pick 9 ninths? You could pick like 4 over 4. And then what do you do with that? Are you going to be adding or multiplying? Because if you multiply, you don't do grouping. You have to change it improper to do that. Yeah. So you're gonna have to stick with this way. You have to change this. If you're gonna try to change them to like do the borrowing technique, we only do borrowing and subtraction. When multiplying, so you don't do that. We have to change strategy, but you're in the wrong realm. That's when we subtract. So pick one of the methods right now. See if you can figure out the answer. Any one. So the top one or the bottom one. See what you can come up with. When I walk around and check what your answer is.
Do you want us to make it?
I want it to be a mixed number in the end. You don't have to simplify it all the way, but I do want a mixed number.
Like, is this how you want it?
Oh, did you get counted on yours? Oh, you get counted on. You got counted. You wouldn't have to be counted. Because it's much cheaper. Well, a lot of people are picking the first method.
It's easier.
Yeah, it is faster. Multiplying 5.
And you just multiply straight across.
Yeah.
It is the same thing. As 300.
It's not over 4. That's where you're going. You multiply straight across and multiply minus 2. Did you take 20 times 15, right? You know, 4 times 1. So
Oh, I like 4.
16. And multiply? You have to multiply minus 2. Yeah. And extracting, leave the bottom one, but multiplying, you have to actually multiply the bottom. Okay. I'm going to give you about 1 or 2 more minutes. I'm going to walk around and see where you're at. We'll kind of guesstimate what we're at, and then we're going to actually do the math. And I'm going to show you that both answers are correct, so they will give you the same result no matter what. That's a good thing. We need to start mixing, adding, multiplying, and working at the rules. There's different rules. Common denominators versus non-common denominators. That kind of thing. When do we switch to improper? When we don't? When do we want to borrow? Alright, here we go. So, if you're trying it by the first method, by multiplying 5 times that 3 3/4. Now, I know this is what the start of the problem looked like. You're just going to multiply these together. You're going to take 5 times this. You don't just multiply the 5 times 3. Don't just tell me this is 15 3/4. That's not how it works. That's not how you do it. And I know, like, Jason, you brought up, like, you want to change this down to be a 4 and maybe go 4 over 4. You want to get, like, the same fraction as this. So you're going to borrow, and then you try to group. You'll get the wrong answer, too, because you get 12, and you get, 12 over 16, which is not big enough. Okay? All right. So when you multiply, like, impropers and mixed numbers, you need to make them improper. So that's why we make this 5 over 1. That's why we make that 15 over 4. You multiply straight across. So 4 times 1 is 4. You can actually multiply these even though they don't have common denominators, because it's the multiplying divide works. You can multiply any fractions together. The top is 5 times 15, which is 75. Now, if you got common denominators here, this would have been 20 over 4, which is fine. You multiply straight across, you got 300 over 16. but you didn't need to. You didn't need to have common denominators. But now I got to change that back. So I'm going to put 75 in the house, the 4 on the outside. 4 goes into 7 once. That's a 4. Subtract, you get 3 and 5. 4 goes into that 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32, and I have a 3 left over. So it's 18 and 3/4. That's actually the answer. That's if you multiply. Now, if you did this method down here, where you added, because maybe you're the adding person. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. There is 15 big 3's out there. Or it's 15 when you add the big 3's together, right? There's 5 of the big 3's. That's the whole number out front. Then when you add the 3/4 in the back, there you have common denominators, so I can just add these all together. And the rule is when you add fractions, you don't add the bottom. That's adding. So in this, you get 15 here. And then this is 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 15 again, over 4. And all I have to do is I have to change this, because this is the part where we simplify a weird mixed number. The 4 goes, well, I'll put this off the side. The 15 is in the house, 4 is on the outside, 4 goes into that 3 times without going over. That's a 12, subtract, you're going to get 3. That's 3 and 3/4. That's this part right here. That's a 3 and 3/4. So when you actually add those together, you still get 18 and 3/4, which is exactly the answer we had over there. That's the correct way to do it. Now, obviously, which one's the easiest? Multiplying. Way easier than anything else. Because you don't have to find any common denominators. You go straight across top and bottom. Whatever the numbers are, you just have to make sure that they're improper, and we're good to go. If they're not improper, then they're just small fractions. That's easier enough. Okay, but that's the trick. Adding is actually way harder. You have to group things together. You have to make sure that when you get down to your answer, this can't be improper, so you have to change that to this, so that I can add them together. So it took more steps. But this is what you should guesstimate, right? You're taking 5 shells that are each about 3 feet, 4 feet long. You're adding them together. There should be about 20 feet of board there. I'm guesstimating. It's about 4 feet. So if you've got numbers that are really small, you weren't really thinking about what the problem's asking for. You wanted 5 shells that were each 3 feet long. All right, let's do another problem here. We'll do the same style. We'll kind of talk about it. I'll give you 2 options. We'll see which ones you can do. Kind of get some practice. Okay, here we go. All right, so a group of general math students need to divide 3/4 pound of sugar 4 ways. So we're going to divide a bag of sugar 4 different ways to make 4 different recipes. What fraction of a pound will each student get in the room? So we're going to divide 3/4 4 ways. Now, let's talk about this. What's the main thing they want us to do here? Divide. There's really no other option. They're asking you to divide. They even were very explicit. I'm taking 3/4 pound of sugar, 3/4 of a pound, and what am I dividing it by?
4 over 1.
Yeah, 4 over 1. That's what I'm dividing by. Okay. Now, how do we divide fractions? What was the rule? Flip it over. We change this to multiplication, and you flip it over. The second fraction flips. And now, it's just straight multiplying. So, now what do you get? And you're done. That's how it works. That's how easy it is. Every student in here will get 3 out of 16 pound of sugar. Not quite even a full pound. Almost a fourth of a pound. Okay. Questions, comments on how I did that? How we divide. Remember, division, you have to flip the second fraction over and make sure that you're and then you're multiplying straight across. We don't find common denominators or anything like that. They just happen to be out, but it doesn't matter. Okay, do I need to simplify that problem down? Do I need to make a mixed number or anything like that, Dan? No. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Questions on division. Alright. This will be the last round before we go to lunch. Here we go. So, Maddie, a plumber, is joining 2 pieces of pipe together. 2 pieces of pipe. The They measure 7 3/16 of an inch, and the other pipe is 4 7/16 of an inch. How long is that new pipe altogether? Okay, so this will be the one I want you to put on your paper. Let's figure it out. What will you get total when you combine these two pieces of pipe? Give it another minute or two here. Combining the two pipes together, what is the new length of your pipe? No, there's two ways to do this. There's two ways. Two ways. And I saw both in the room. Now, one was most definitely easier than the other. What was the easiest way to do this from? Yeah, add them. Now, what I mean by there's two methods. Adding, there was two ways to add. 7 3/16 plus the other pipe. That will give you a total number of pipes. The easiest way is to add, you just group. You're allowed to group when you add and subtract. This is how I would have done it. Because now adding, this is 11. When I add those. Over here, that is 10/16. They already have common denominators. That's your total. That's it. It was super short. After lunch, we're going to talk about what the second way. Okay. Yeah, we'll do a review Monday. So I'll probably, we're going to take at least a day or two to do this. So Thursday, I'll probably have some more of this stuff. And then maybe Friday might be just kind of the start of practice guide. And we can do a
Do
review.
you have a practice guide?
Yeah.
That way I can make sure I
Yep.
get on the same thing.
I'll give it to you today. So.
Wait, I remember when Xander, no, I think it was Callan. Okay, pretend this is some grade or 8th grade, and he was using his laptop bag. It was going like that really closely, looking at in the 7th grader face. You can have it.
Winner, loser. Okay. No.
You don't want it now?
No, you need the people working on that.
Okay.
Like add more stuff.
Yeah, we're so good, my dad.
Hey, my mom.
Trying to get up here. See that one was good.
She's slightly less shorter than you.
Stand up, Sean. Get out of here.
That's right.
I'm taller than you now.
No, you're not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sitting down.
See, hold on. Let me try to average you.
Yeah, that ain't average. No, I see for average.
I
Yeah,
feel
what
so
you got?
tiny.
That ain't average. I can average you.
Okay. All right, let's go through a couple more reviews. I do want to finish this problem. This is the one that we started right before we went to lunch. I want to finish it up. I said there was two ways to do it, and I saw actually both ways being attempted. number one, adding grouping method, way simple. They already have common denominators, so you just add the big numbers, you add the fractions together like this, and we don't even have to simplify it, it's fine. I know that this fraction can go down, there's like 2's and common and stuff, but I don't need to. Now, if you did it by the other method, I saw one person attempting this. 3/16 plus a 4 and 7/16. They attempted to change these to improper. That's fine. 7 times 16 is a really big number. It's 112, and then you're going to add the top number, which is like 115 over 16. That's really big. I understand that's huge. That's something I probably would not have done, just because the numbers are too big. 4 times 16 is a 64, I believe, and then you add the 7 on the top. 64 plus 7 is 71 over 16, and then you can add these two together. And you can actually add the tops. The bottom's already 16, and so if I add the top, that is a 6, 8, and 1, so it's 186. And then I would attempt to change this back, and it would just turn into this. Okay. Any questions with the concept of what we're doing here? Like this idea of adding versus multiplying versus subtraction versus division. I want to give you multiple options. Now remember, when you add and subtract, you have to have common denominators. I prefer grouping method on adding and subtracting. On multiplying and dividing, you just go straight across. We change it to improper if we need to. With adding and subtracting, I tend to try to just stick with this method if it's possible. All right, let's do another one here, because I got about 2 more left that I want to try. All right, so here we go. Next one. All right, so Dylan here has 7 3/4 yards of material for a bolt of cloth. A bolt is what you're seeing here. These are bolts. That is 18 yards long. Okay, how many yards of material are left on that bolt? So Dylan used this much from that many yards. I want to know what's left on that bolt. Okay, so think about it for a few minutes. We'll discuss it. So Dylan used 7 3/4 yards of material for the bolt. That is 18 yards long. How many yards of material are we left? Give you about a minute here. Kind of think about the problem itself, and then we're going to discuss how would we attempt to do this problem. Another 15 seconds here, and then we're going to discuss it, and I'll give you some more time if you need to work on it. Okay, what do you think? Give me some options. Let's talk out loud. What are we thinking about this problem? Alex, what do you got?
I think I might have the answer.
Okay, but what was the strategy you used?
I just divided.
Divided?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about why did you divide?
Well, he's saying like he used 7 3/4 yards of material, and it's only 18.
So dividing though, what you're going to be finding if you choose to divide, you'll figure out if the item that Dylan is making, right, this item that he's making, if you wanted to make more of them, when you divide, that'll tell you how many more you could make. So that's not what we want. We want to know what's left. So can anyone think about what we want to do here? What do you think?
Yeah.
Keep going.
You have to put 118.
118, okay. Then what?
And then you have to make 7 3/4 of
Okay, so you're choosing mixed numbers, that's fine. So that's 28 plus 3, which is 31 over 4. And then what am I going to do?
then just
Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, what am I doing?
Wait, shouldn't 31 over 4 be divided by 18?
Yeah, I have
Okay, you haven't looked around, but what are you doing here?
you. There's
Oh, so you're subtracting now. Here's the problem with doing what you just told me. You're taking 7 3/4, because that's this number, right? And you're subtracting 18 off of it. You need to make a number. I want that. No. You gotta switch it on. I want the 18 up front. This is what I want. If you take the 18 feet of, 18 yards, I should say, 18 yards of material, and you subtract what you don't use, this will give you what's left. Now, I don't mind that you guys change these to improper. That's fine. You could do it that way. And that was the 31/4. And you could get common denominators because you have to actually add and subtract these. Or just borrow and do the grouping method.
Oh, yeah.
So if you borrow, I could have made this problem a lot easier. Borrowing means making this 18 a 17 and making the fraction in the back the same as this one. 4/4. Making the same common denominator. There's no number on the top, so I just make sure it's 4/4. That's a total of 1. Now I can subtract the 7 3/4. Because that's grouping. Now I can group these together. 17 minus 7 and the 4/4 minus the 3/4. That's easy. Because what's 17 minus 7? 10. 4 minus 3?
Oh,
Boom. That. That's the answer. That's the answer to the variant. That's what you got. Now, if you did it this way, let's say you did it improper. That's fine. You did it by improper. We'd have to get common denominator. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by 4. So I'll take the top times 4. 4, 31, not they're the same. I'll leave that one. But multiplying the top by 4, I get 72. That's 18 times 4. And when you subtract or cross, I get 41/4, which is easy that. A lot easier if you borrow, right? We're subtracting. Dividing, it would have gave me how many projects Dylan could have done with that material. But I want to know how much was left. So that's the idea of left is doing subtraction. Okay, that's the idea. Dylan could have probably done another project. You probably found it was going to be like 1 and some fraction. Yeah. Because Dylan could do one more project with a little bit left. Okay. Or actually 2. Alright. Alright, questions, comments on this one? I'm trying to get you to kind of see the idea of like subtracting, adding, multiplying. You got to know like the purpose of them. Subtracting is finding what's left. Adding is trying to combine them. Dividing is when you want to see how many projects you could actually do with that same amount. Multiplying is when you're trying to make the project bigger of some sort. Okay, last problem of the day, and then I'm going to give you some time where you can work on your assignment today. The one that I gave you yesterday on the subtraction. Okay, last problem of the day, here we go. Okay, it takes 2 1/4 cups of flour to make this cake. 2 1/4. Okay, how much flour will it need to make half of that recipe? I want to make half a cake. So how much of that, how many cups of flour will I need to make half the recipe? Think about it. I'll give you a couple minutes just to think about this problem, and we'll discuss it. This is the flour used to make the whole cake. I want to make half a cake. Two minutes here to think about it, maybe try some stuff out, and then we're going to discuss like what you should do. Okay, what do you think? What's your initial reaction? What you're thinking? What we should do here? You need to make half a cake. Divided by what? Yeah, cut it in half. Divide by 2. Take your recipe. Your recipe calls for 2 1/4 cup of flour. Right, 2 1/4. Divided by 2. You want to make half the cake? Divide the recipe by half. Divided by 2. Okay? Or, the trick is, if you're going to divide, you're going to multiply by the flip. If you flip that fraction over, you're going to multiply by half. That's what you're doing. You flip the number over, and we do the reciprocal. Okay? Now, when we multiply, you don't need to get common denominators. We need to make these both improper. That's the way we do it. So, 2 times the 4 is 8. Add the 1 on the top. There's 9/4. And we're going to multiply by half. Make half a cake. Okay? So when we do that, we look diagonally, there's nothing that they would have in common because this is 3 and 3, that's a 2 and 1, that's a 1, that's a 2 and 2. There's nothing, so we go straight across, and we made 9/8. Now, that's how much flour. We need to change that back to a mixed number. So changing this to a mixed number, we put the 9 in the house, 8 on the outside. How many times can 8 go on the 9? 1 time. If I subtract, I get 1. That's the remainder, so it's going to be a big 1 here. The remainder over what we divided by. That is how much flour you need. You need about a cup and an 8. I already when I divided by 2, that's when I flip. I'm cutting it in half, right? That's dividing by 2. So when you make half the recipe, you're dividing the recipe by 2. Okay, or I multiply it in half, cutting it in half. So that's the idea. So cutting this recipe, dividing it into 2 parts, or just multiplying by 2. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Hopefully you have these written down. We've done about 5 of these today. Tomorrow we'll do a couple more, and we'll see if we're going to get better at this. This is something that I want you to learn how to do, how to apply this stuff, and plus get it straight in your head, how to multiply, how to add and subtract. Okay, the rest of them is yours. You can finish up your page 82, 83, or just subtracting on that one.